Good morning. So, hope all of you are keeping well and you have started your studying as your exams are coming very close. We have studied about the oculomotor nerve, isn't it? So, today we are going to study about the trochlear nerve. Okay? The trochlear nerve or the fourth cranial nerve. So, little changes I have made for you people. I'll try to show the notes and I will draw the diagram in the book so that you can understand. And any difficulty in understanding this, you just let me know. We will continue our lecture as we were continuing before. So today we are going to study about the trochlear nerve. We are going to study about the trochlear nerve. This trochlear nerve is the fourth cranial nerve and it is motor nerve. Got it? The trochlear nerve is the fourth cranial nerve and it is the motor nerve, and it only supplies one muscle. While studying the extraocular muscles, it must have been told to you. All the muscles of the eye are supplied by the third cranial nerve except for the superior oblique muscle and the lateral rectus muscle. Got it? The superior oblique muscle which is supplied by the fourth cranial nerve and the lateral rectus muscle which is supplied by the sixth cranial nerve. Isn't it? It must have been told to you. So today we are going to deal with that fourth cranial nerve which supplies the superior oblique muscle of the eye. Got it? It is the only muscle and the only nerve. Got it? So it is the nerve which is supplying the superior oblique muscle. Now this muscle, got it, when it comes out from the brain and it enters into the orbit. Got it? This nerve, when it comes out of the brain and enters into the orbit at the medial end. Got it? At the medial end, there is a hook-like process. Got it? Over here along the medial end of the orbit, there is a hook-like. This hook-like structure is called as the trochlea. Got it? This hook-like structure is called as the trochlea, and this muscle, it enters from the superior orbital fissure, comes to the medial side, crosses the pulley, and then it is getting attached to the eyeball. Got it? And then it is getting attached to the eyeball. When I will show you diagrammatically, I will show you how it is. So it is moving from a pulley. Trochlea means like a pulley. So that's why the nerve is given the name the trochlea nerve. Okay, and this nerve is supposed to be the smallest nerve. Okay, this is supposed to be the smallest nerve because most of the nerves, they consist of many axons: the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, the ganglionic, and so on and somatic. Efferent, somatic, efferent, isn't it? So many ganglions are present in the nerve. But over here, there are only few axons present in the trochlear nerve. Got it? There are only few axons present in the trochlear nerve, and therefore it is called as the smallest nerve. Got it? Not because of the length or because of the size or because of the shape, but because of the number of axons that are present. They are less in number, therefore you call it as the smallest nerve. And it is of the greatest limb. There are so many nerves: the vagus nerve, the hypoglossal nerve, and all these nerves. They are so big, they are going down into the abdomen and all. But here, this nerve inside the brain only is having such a big force, so that's why you say it is having the greatest force. Got it? It is having the greatest force. Then okay, it is the only nerve, okay, which leaves the brainstem posteriorly. Okay, so this is something classical feature about the trochlear nerve. It is the only nerve which leaves the brainstem posteriorly. Rest all the nerves are leaving the brainstem anteriorly. You have the sixth nerve, you have the fifth nerve, you have the seventh nerve. Got it? These are the nerves which are leaving anteriorly. But this, it originates anteriorly, but it goes posteriorly, and then it comes out of the brain. Then it comes out of the brain, midbrain. Okay, so the only nerve which leaves the brainstem posteriorly. Now the course and relation. The course and relation of this trochlear nerve is the trochlear nerve emerges from the back of the brainstem just below the inferior colliculus. Got it? Just below the inferior colliculus. Okay, so now to diagrammatically show you is diagrammatically to show you is, so see, I am going to draw the diagram of brainstem. Okay, now this diagram, how it is going to be? Like this. It is going to be in the front. Got it? This diagram, it is going to be a section from the front. Okay, so when you take a section like this, you will see this diagram. Okay, so see, this is the brainstem. Okay, this is the inferior colliculus. Okay, this is the, so above this will be the superior colliculus. Okay, inferior colliculus. Okay, inferior colliculus. Then you have the foramen cecum. Okay, then you have the medial lemniscus, isn't it? You have the medial lemniscus. Okay, you have the medial lemniscus, and over here you have the crus cerebri and the corticospinal tract, isn't it? Here you have the crus cerebri and the corticospinal tract. Okay, here you have the crus cerebri and the corticospinal tract. So this over here you have the third nerve nucleus. Got it? You have the third nerve nucleus over here. Here you have the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, isn't it? Here you have the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, and over here you have the red nucleus. Red nucleus. Got it? And this is the third nerve nucleus. Okay? Okay? So from here, okay, from below the inferior colliculus, close to the third nerve, origins the fourth cranial nerve. Got it? Over here up. Okay, this is the fourth cranial nerve nucleus. So what happens to this fourth cranial nerve? Okay, this fourth cranial nerve, when it is originating, it is crossing. Got it? If this is the right side and this is the left side, so this will go like this and come down. This will go like this and it will come down. Got it? So that's why you say it has got a very long course. Got it? That's why you say it has got a very long course. Okay? So you have the fourth cranial, you have the nucleus of the fourth cranial nerve below the inferior colliculus in the midbrain. Okay? Then from here originates the fibers, they go up and they go to the opposite side. The right fibers will go up and they will go to the opposite side. So they cross. Okay? Now please remember this, they cross. So any lesion on the right side will affect the left side, and any lesion on the left side will affect the right side because they have crossed. Got it? So the right will go to the left and the left will go to the right. Below here you have the pons, isn't it? And below this you have the medulla, which continues down as the spinal cord, isn't it? So here you have the pyramid, isn't it? And here you have the olive, isn't it? This is how the whole thing looks. So it originates below the inferior colliculus of the brain stem. Got it? Okay? And then it encircles the midbrain and runs in the subarachnoid space. Got it? And then it is covered by the subarachnoid space. Now diagrammatically to show you, got it? This is the nucleus. What I showed you is the nucleus, where it is located into the brain stem. Now I will show you. You see, now this is the midbrain, isn't it? The midbrain. Then this is the pons, isn't it? And then below this we have the medulla, and then we have the fourth ventricle, isn't it? Like this, and behind this is present the cerebellum. Got it? Behind this is present the cerebellum. Okay? So you have the superior colliculus, you have the inferior colliculus. This is the midbrain, this is the pons, this is the medulla, this is the fourth ventricle. This is the fourth ventricle, and this is the superior colliculus, Got it? This is the superior colliculus and this is the inferior colliculus of the midbrain. So just close to the midbrain, inferior colliculus of the midbrain originates the fourth cranial nerve, and this way it passes there. Got it? This way it passes. Okay? Okay? So here when it is coming down, got it? When it is going behind and then coming in front, got it? It is uncovered by the subarachnoid matter. It is covered by the arachnoid space, you can see. Got it? It is surrounded by arachnoid space. Then from here, this fourth cranial nerve, when it is coming out of the brain, got it? When it is coming out of the midbrain, okay? Here when it comes at the level of pons, got it? You have the vertebral artery which is going up, isn't it? This is the vertebral artery, got it? This vertebral artery divides into right branch, left branch, got it? Here you have the middle meningeal, isn't it? The middle meningeal artery dividing into right, left branch, superior branch, middle branch and the inferior branch, isn't it? And this vertebral artery divides into posterior got it? Superior cerebellar artery, got it? Superior cerebellar artery, and this is the posterior cerebral artery, and this is the superior cerebellar artery, got it? So when this nerve comes down, got it? When this nerve comes down, it lies between the the posterior cerebellar artery and the superior cerebellar artery. Got it? It lies between the posterior cerebral artery, and here below down is the superior cerebellar artery. Got it? So it lies between the two. Okay? Okay, so it comes from the nucleus, it goes behind and then comes down. When it is coming down and passing from the posterior cranial fossa to the anterior cranial fossa, it lies between the posterior cerebral artery and the superior cerebellar artery. Got it? Then it pierces the margins of the tentorium cerebellar. Now to show you, you have the posterior cranial fossa. Little above that is the middle cranial fossa, and little above that is the anterior, middle and posterior cranial fosses. Okay, so this is the clivus over here, isn't it? So the midbrain is here. So this nerve is coming like this, crossing the posterior cranial fossa, got it, and entering into the middle cranial fossa. Now in the middle cranial fossa, what is present? There is presence of the sella turcica, isn't it? Like this, there is presence of the sella turcica. Here is present the pituitary gland. Here is present the pituitary gland. So from the posterior cranial fossa, it will cross the cavernous sinus and then it will go anterior, isn't it? It will cross the cavernous sinus. Here is the cavity, here is the cavity, isn't it? So it will lie in the cavernous sinus. Okay, so the fourth cranial nerve, it origins at the midbrain near the inferior colliculus. The two branches, they cross each other. They pass posterior to the brainstem, and then it descends. Got it? It descends forwards. Got it? It lies in the posterior cranial fossa. At the level of posterior cranial fossa, it is related to the posterior cerebral artery and the superior cerebellar artery. From here, it crosses the free margins of the tentorium cerebelli and enters into the middle cranial fossa. Got it? So see, this is the vertical section. Now this I am showing you, this is the fossae, this is the horizontal, isn't it? Isn't it? This is this level, isn't it? So from posterior cranial fossa, it is coming into the anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, and in the middle cranial fossa, it lies within the cavernous sinus. So see, here it is originating in the midbrain. Then this is over here the posterior cranial fossa. From the posterior cranial fossa, it will come into the middle cranial fossa, where it lies in the cavernous sinus, isn't it? In the cavernous sinus, got it? It is related to the third cranial nerve and the internal carotid artery, isn't it? Here the third cranial nerve will lie over here, isn't it? And the internal carotid artery will enter the canal like this, isn't it? The internal carotid artery will enter the canal like this, and it will lie over here, isn't it? So this is the internal carotid artery. This is the third cranial nerve, and from here middle passes the fourth cranial nerve. Got it? Passes the fourth cranial nerve. So first it lies in the posterior cranial fossa. It is related to the two arteries. Then from there it comes in the middle cranial fossa. It passes through the cavernous sinus. Got it? Which is present on either side of the sella turcica. Okay, in the cavernous sinus it is related to the internal carotid artery and the third cranial nerve. It is related to the internal carotid artery and the third cranial nerve. Got it? From the cavernous sinus. From the cavernous sinus, this fourth cranial nerve enters into the superior orbital fissure. Superior orbital, got it? Superior orbital fissure. Got it? It enters into the superior orbital fissure. Now to show you the superior orbital fissure. See, got it? So see, this is the superior orbital fissure. See this oblique thing which you see, this is the superior orbital fissure, and this round portion which you see is the ring of Zinn. Got it? Or annulus of Zinn. This is called as the ring of Zinn or the annulus of the Zinn. Got it? So this ring of Zinn divides the superior orbital fissure into medial part, middle part and lateral part. Okay? So this ring of Zinn or annulus of Zinn divides the orbital fissure into medial part, middle part and the lateral part. Now see, through the medial part passes LFT. Please remember this. Passes LFT. What do you mean by LFT? That is the lacrimal nerve, the frontal nerve and the trochlear nerve. Got it? LFT. LFT means lacrimal, frontal and trochlear nerve. Got it? LFT means lacrimal, frontal and trochlear nerve. Passes through the medial part. Now through the middle part. Through the middle part, first of all you have the superior branch of the third cranial nerve. Here you have the inferior branch of the third cranial nerve. Got it? You have the sixth cranial nerve, that is the abducent nerve, and between the two superior and inferior branches you have the nasociliary nerve. Got it? You have the nasociliary nerve. Okay? So this is how the cranial nerves are passing through the orbital fissure. Superior orbital fissure and superior orbital fissure. Okay, understood? So now you understood the trochlear nerve passes through the medial part of the orbit. Got it? Orbital fissure. The trochlear nerve passes through the middle part of the orbital, medial part of the orbital fissure, and then enters into the orbit. And it supplies the superior oblique muscle. Now see, from here it is entering into the superior orbital fissure. Got it? Passing through the superior orbital fissure and entering into the orbit. Now see, I will show you. Now this is coming from the superior orbital fissure. Okay, this is the orbit. Okay, over here there is a hook-like structure. So this trochlear nerve, it comes this way. Got it? Passes through the hook. Got it? Passes through the hook, and suppose this is the eyeball. Got it? This is the eyeball. Okay? This is the eyeball, and up over here it will get attached to the superior oblique muscle. So this hook-like structure, this is called as the trochlea. Got it? It is called as the trochlea and it acts like a pulley. Got it? It is the trochlea and it acts like the pulley. So see, this is how you remember. It originates in the midbrain, just below the inferior colliculus. So now this is the side diagram. Okay, this is the side diagram, that's why it is this way. And when you draw this diagram, this is the inferior colliculus and this is the fourth cranial nerve, like this. Okay, so it is lying just inferior to the inferior colliculus, originates the fourth cranial nerve. It goes behind and then comes in front. So that's why it turns around the midbrain and then comes. That's why you say it is having a greatest length. Okay, then it comes this way, crosses the posterior cranial fossa. In the posterior cranial fossa, it is related to the posterior cerebral artery and the superior cerebellar artery. Okay, then this, from the posterior cranial fossa, it comes into the middle cranial fossa and it is covered by the arachnoid matter. It is covered by the arachnoid matter. From the posterior cranial fossa, it crosses the free margins of the tentorium cerebelli and comes in the middle cranial fossa. In the middle cranial fossa, it lies within the cavernous sinus. Got it? It lies within the cavernous sinus. In the cavernous sinus, it is related to the third cranial nerve and the internal carotid artery. Because over here down is the foramen lacerum, and through this foramen lacerum comes the internal carotid artery. Because over here only is the carotid canal, and like this. Okay, so we have the internal carotid artery. Okay, then from the cavernous sinus, it leaves the cavernous sinus, okay, and goes through the superior orbital fissure. Okay, this is the superior orbital fissure. From the superior, it passes through the medial part of the superior orbital fissure, and then see, this is the orbit. Okay, this is the orbit. Okay, and this is the eye. Okay, so this fourth cranial nerve passes through the medial part. Got it? Goes upwards, crosses this pulley, and then up over here, it is attached to the superior oblique muscle. Got it? It is attached to the superior oblique muscle. Okay, so this is how it is. This is the course and relation of the superior trochlear nerve. Now you have the functions of the superior oblique muscle. Got it? You have the functions of the superior oblique muscle. The function of the superior oblique muscle is intorsion and extorsion of the eye. Got it? Intorsion and extorsion of the eye. What do you mean by intorsion? Intorsion means when, got it? Suppose now when we are looking straight, isn't it? And suppose we want to read, so what we do? We look down, isn't it? We look down. So our eyes, they rotate towards the medial side. Our eyes, they rotate towards the medial side like this, isn't it? So looking towards the nose like this. Looking towards the nose is intorsion and looking towards the side is extorsion. Okay, looking towards the nose is intorsion and looking outside is the extorsion. So now the clinical anatomy. Got it? Injury to the nerve will cause weakness of the downwards movement of the eye. Got it? Downwards movement of the eye. Now this pulley is pulling the superior oblique muscle, isn't it? When you are looking this way, what happens? Suppose you want to look this side. So your this medial eyeball will come here and your this will go this way. When you want to look this side, the eyeball will come this side and this, isn't it? So the pulley is pulling your eye, isn't it? It is pulling to look down. It is leaving the muscle when you look down. When you look up, it is pulling the muscle backwards. So the whole eyeball is rotated, isn't it? The whole eyeball is rotated. And weakness of this muscle, got it? Weakness of this nerve, okay, will cause diplopia. Suppose what will happen? Your medial side of the eye, got it? When you are reading, your eyeball comes here, got it? Your eyeball comes here. So what happens? Not while reading, actually, especially while getting down the stairs or anything, and you want to look this side. So if your right side is paralyzed, if the right nerve is injured, if your right nerve is defective, so what will happen? There is enrollment of the eye. So the left eye, the rolling will be correct, isn't it? When you want to look this side, this will come this side. But because of the paralysis of this muscle, the rolling will not go this side, isn't it? When we look this side, this comes medially and this goes laterally. When we look this way, this goes laterally, this comes medial. But when both the eyes will remain on the medial side, so isn't it? If one is paralyzed and the other is normal, that will perform the normal function, isn't it? And both the eyes will remain on the medial side, the accommodation will change, isn't it? So what happens? Then the patient will see double things. Got it? The patient will see double things. I'll repeat it again. Okay? It is helping the muscles to look towards the nose. So both the eyes are coming towards the nose, isn't it? And they are accommodating. But if one side is paralyzed and one side is normal, isn't it? So one side is trying to accommodate, but the other side is not functioning. So there is no accommodation. So what will happen? There will be double vision. Okay, there will be double vision, and this is called as diplopia. This is called as diplopia. Okay, and torsional diplopia. Got it? What is torsional diplopia? Torsional diplopia, it has a characteristic appearance of the patient. It has a characteristic appearance of the patient of the fourth cranial nerve. So how the patient learn to accommodate, the patient will tilt the head. If the affection is on the right side, the head will be tilted to the left and with the chin like this. Got it? It will be, the patient will tilt the head like this and the chin will be this way. So this type of position is called as torsion diplopia. Got it? It is called as torsional diplopia. And acute palsy is due to head injury. Got it? Acute palsy is due to head injury. You might get a blow, you might get a fall, you might get an accident. So that is because of the trauma, and the patient will complain of blurry vision. The vision will not be clear, isn't it? डोळ्याच्या चष्म्यावर किंवा डोळ्यांच्या समोर पाणी आलं की कसं ब्लर दिसतं, तर त्याला ब्लरी विजन म्हणतात. And chronic palsy, the cause is congenital. Got it? In chronic palsy, the cause is congenital. Got it? Now over here, examination of the nerve. Now this superior oblique muscle on the right side, on the left side, they are synergist. Synergist means working together. Got it? Synergist means working together. So the superior oblique, both the muscles are working together. But if one is paralyzed and the other is working normally, then the problems will arise. The patient will have diplopia, the patient will not be able to see properly, the vision will not be clear, there might be vertigo also, isn't it? And there might be imbalance and the patient may fall down. Okay, so this is about the fourth cranial nerve. Okay, this is all about the fourth cranial nerve. So I hope you have understood this. Okay, so over here the fourth cranial nerve is important because examination of the patient, isn't it? Your exam point of view, nobody is going to ask you fourth cranial nerve. But if a patient comes with fourth cranial nerve palsy, got it, and you are supposed to know, see, the reasons of injury to the fourth cranial nerve can be different, isn't it? There can be any tumor in the posterior cranial fossa, since it is related to the posterior cerebral artery and the superior cerebellar artery. There can be aneurysm of those vessels. They can compress the fourth cranial nerve. In cavernous sinus, there can be aneurysm of internal carotid artery. Again, there can be compression of the fourth cranial nerve, isn't it? Then there can be any overgrowth in the superior orbital fissure. Over there can be compression, or in the eye due to raised intracranial tension. Okay, so like this there can be various reasons, vascular in nature, traumatic in nature, or because of any overgrowth. There can be compression of the fourth cranial nerve and cause paralysis of the superior oblique muscle. And the most important function of the superior oblique muscle is intorsion and extorsion. Okay, so that's all for the trochlear nerve. Hope you understood. If you do not understand, please ask various queries. If you have any difficulty in understanding the action and the testing, you can ask me. I will repeat it again. Okay, understood? Okay, chalo, bye. Thank you.